stove. I thought how sad it was that I always had my empty oven showing, my empty.
Yes, well, we're live, and I think where people came in there was you mentioning your potbelly stove. Do you need to explain?
Well, I got my potbelly, but I noticed that I could do with a plant, and I thought, well, where can I put it? Because I've got so little space here and so many animals jumping up and down on surfaces. And then I thought, I know I can put it in the potbelly, and I found by amazing chance a plant that needs to be out of direct sunlight between March and November, which is when I'm not using the oven. When I'm not using the...
That sounds like permaculture. That's permaculture right there.
Yeah, that is, isn't it?
Very good. And what sort of plant, before we move on and avert anyone getting in touch to say that plant's going to fry? No, Natasha is not using the stove at the moment. It's just a receptacle for the plant. What sort of plant is it?
I don't know. It's got a pink thing. Look. Can you see? It's got a pink thing hanging from it.
Right. Okay.
Very interesting plant. I've never seen it before.
Yes, we might get all sorts of answers with that description. Right, this is the Resident News Review, and we are live with a very special guest. Before we go to Andy Cline, who's up in Aveiro, he's American, he's up in Aveiro, he's a proud resident of that wonderful city, the Venice of Portugal, of course. Let's find out how you are, Natasha. It's been a very weird news week. I mean, it's often weird, isn't it? But this has been especially weird, as you'll be saying with your news pick, as you'll be going into with your news pick of this week. Generally speaking, is it spring-like and busy and frenzied at the moment, news-wise?
It's totally frenzied today because down in the Algarve, we got the most incredible wind and boiling heat.
Right.
And we've got, it looked like we had a whole football team of people with their ski sticks walking up the hill.
Right.
We've got trucks uploading rubble because everyone's decided they're going to start building suddenly. So it's complete chaos.
Right. Okay. Yeah, there is wind in the sails, lead in the pencil, and all sorts of building work going on. Spring is officially here. And now I understand when you asked me earlier on this morning if I'd got wind. No, I always look uncomfortable like this. Right. Let's welcome him onto the screen. This is Andy Cline, live from Aveiro. Andy, great to see you. How are you today? Tudo bem?
Tudo bem, sim.
You are a student of the language as well as a lover of this culture. Tell us about yourself. Yes. How did you get to be in Portugal?
My wife and I visited Portugal on a vacation some years ago and really loved it. We've traveled a lot of different places, and this was kind of a surprise. I think we had sort of a, I hate to say typical American attitude, but, Portugal stuck on the end of Spain. I mean, what is it really? And then we got here for that vacation and just fell in love with everything about it. People, the scenery, the food, the whole thing. And we've been talking for a long time about spending time, perhaps even moving permanently out of the United States, mostly to actually live this citizen of the world image we had of ourselves. We're not here because of Trump. Yeah, and so as we began looking at various places, we were first looking at Spanish-speaking countries because Lola and I have both had some Spanish. We're not very good at it, but we've at least had it. And I was also looking toward your former country, or at least Scotland, because on the Grant side of my family, I'm a Highlander, I guess. But it's so hard.
Andy, did you hear that?
No, I'm sorry.
I don't think you caught it. Thank God you didn't go there. Apologies already to Scottish people this week.
Yeah,
but we're glad to have you here.
It's so hard to get in, and it's so expensive that I dispensed with that idea almost as soon as it occurred to me. I've been to the UK many, many times. I've been to Scotland many, many times. Always have a great time when I'm there. But as a place to go live as an American retiree, it's problematic.
Okay.
And Portugal is not problematic. And so as we began looking at places we might go, Portugal just keeps coming up to the top of all the lists, right? And so we said, well, we've been to Portugal. We really loved it. Let's think about that. And so we started the process. We visited again with the purpose of answering the question, is this a place that, we really want to be? And 3.5 years later.
Oh, well done. Well done. Well, a lovely
Fantastic.
story. Ahead of that Trump exodus curve, you were keen to point out, I think, as well. But you're a trendsetter, a leading edge type here with us in Aveiro. How do you find the city of Aveiro?
Love it. Best place for us. So one of my reasons for wanting to move outside the United States was because, as an amateur new urbanist, I was looking for some very particular things that are very hard to find in the United States. A beautiful urban environment that's walkable, good public transportation, and a good climate. I am done with the heat and humidity of the Midwest. I'm done with snow. And Aveiro has like this perfect climate. Now, when I tell this to people who live here, they look at me like I'm crazy. But what I say is that in Aveiro, it's spring every day of the year.
Yeah, how lovely.
And it is for somebody from Missouri, because I've seen snow in the month of May, and I've seen 100 degrees in the month of May.
Yeah.
Right.
So you know where you stand with Aveiro.
Wow.
Exactly. And so it hits all the hot buttons, absolutely all of them. Now we have an aggressive travel schedule around Portugal. We go to see many places. We see many places that we just think are just fabulous. But we get home to Aveiro, and now we're in the best place. That's
always reassuring, isn't it? When you're enjoying looking around Portugal, but you're always glad to be home as well. And you've obviously found your kind of forever place, as much as we can say that here in Portugal. That's wonderful to put you into perspective there. You're also a documentary filmmaker, and we must mention at the end your incredible documentary upcoming about the salt pans of Aveiro. And I think I'll put a few links into the various film projects that I've seen you make in your time here in Portugal. A wonderful contribution to the culture here, Andy. So thank you very much for being with us here today. And it was all going so very well with moving to Portugal. And then things changed. And the news pick of yours here is one of those changes. Portugal clarifies nationality law shake-up. Not an easy thing to say, let alone speak about. But you want to today. You want to take a look into this. I don't suppose you were expecting this 3.5 years ago, were you? Well,
no. So first, let me say, Portugal has every right and duty to control who comes in and how they achieve citizenship. And I am 100% behind the Portuguese people doing exactly that.
Yeah, well said.
There are two things about this that kind of chaps my hide.
Did you bring that from Missouri, that expression?
That's it's
right.
That's a Missouri expression.
Yes, okay.
Okay. The first is that Chega has anything to do with it.
Right.
But the other thing is that unlike a lot of things that Portugal does when it changes laws, Portugal heretofore has always been a place that's very good about grandfathering in, right? We're going to change this law, but if you were already doing something and expecting something, we're not going to change it for you.
Yes.
And those of us on D7s got kicked in the teeth because it's now 10 years. Now,
yeah, but why is that a kick in the teeth, Andy? I've been here for 40 years as a resident. I never once thought about becoming a national. My boys are Portuguese, their father's Portuguese. My daughter is taking out Portuguese resident nationality because her father was English. And I thought, well, maybe I'll become a national. But I've never actually felt the need for it, or there's no pressure. I can vote. I'm part of the community. I can't vote in the national elections, but I can vote in the municipal ones, which are the ones that really affect me. What is this big thing that people feel that they should be nationals after just 5 years? I don't get it.
I can only answer for myself, and that's that I want to be fully participant in this society, and that means voting at a national level, among other things.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not,
get that.
I'm not here to just exist here. I am here
Okay,
to
but then
participate.
I haven't just existed either. I mean, I've had a family and I've had jobs and everything else. But what I'm saying is, why is 5 years or 10 years? What's the big deal? You're here. You're not going to move.
The big deal is that it was one thing when I moved here, and then it got changed partway through. And Portugal heretofore has been very good about grandfathering.
Yeah, but
this law,
this law is not going to affect you because you've already got your application in.
No, I'm here 3.5 years.
Oh, you haven't got your application in.
I just got my renewal, my first renewal, right? So I was looking at the 5 years to get the national. Now, again, it's a matter of what I was told when I applied for the D7 and what I was expecting.
Things change, as you said at the beginning. Everything changes, and what happened here was such a devastating change that the authorities couldn't actually cope with, because when the socialists sort of opened up the doors without really thinking of what the consequences would be, we were so inundated with foreigners that no one can cope. We've still got a backlog, stretching back to Bangladesh probably. So as a result, they've had to change the way they act. I don't actually see there's a problem. No one's saying to you, Andy, we don't want you. They're just saying, Andy, it'll take a bit longer.
I think, and that's your perspective on it, and mine is just simply different. I was expecting to participate fully in this society after 5 years. I'm now going to wait. Yeah, I am going to wait. I'm not going anywhere. But this is also indicative of exactly something that you just mentioned. So I'm going to do a quick comparison, although it's a bit of applesy and orangey, between how laws get passed in the United States and how they get passed here. This is a very dynamic parliamentary system. The United States is a very plodding federal system.
You can say that again.
Yes, it is. And so, but one of the reasons it's plodding is because before anything comes law, it is studied to death. So by the time routine laws are passed, there's a very high degree that they're going to work. Here in Portugal, somebody gets an idea and they throw that up against the wall and see what sticks. Stuff gets passed here in lightning speed, and only then do they realize what problems they may have.
Sure, but then remember, we're dealing with different cultures. I mean, your American culture is completely different to the Mediterranean.
Yes, that is a different culture.
Yeah.
But is it really part of the Portuguese culture to make mistakes?
Yeah, all the time.
Affect people's lives and then fix them? I would suggest that maybe since cultures, influence each other as they should, perhaps, and AIM is the perfect example of this. I mean, it still is a huge mess that with a little study could have been adjusted.
Sure. But that's the thing about Portugal. We do make messes here. Messes are made all the time, but that's almost the beauty of this country. I honestly have had the rug pulled from under my feet so many times. I couldn't even, list how many times, but it just doesn't matter because this is where I live. I've lived here for more than half my life. I'm not moving anywhere, and I just roll with the punches. And I think that
that's you.
Yeah,
that's
but I find people who complain intensely irritating because you can't come to a place. It's like me going to America, let's say, which God forbid I would never do. But if I went to America,
as you just complained about the US,
but I don't like the way you do this, and I don't like the way you do that. I wouldn't expect anyone to listen to me.
As an American, that's a daily experience for me. Okay, we are the people on this planet that everybody takes shots at. Everybody, all the time. We're dumb. We don't know this. We don't know that. We complain all the time. We're arrogant. This is a daily.
No, but it's not just you. I think it's people from Bangladesh as well aren't very happy. The thing is, what I'm trying to say is that. I don't think the people
they're
from
not.
Bangladesh are happy. Probably the people from other places are not happy. But the thing is it's just a question of, it's just a, what's the word, a chronological question. It's just a question of a few more years. No one is saying we don't want you. No one is saying we don't like you, or that you're stupid or anything like that. They're not saying that. They're saying, oh, Andy, what a pity. Never mind, you can participate in the municipal elections. Sorry about that. But I mean, that's Portugal. And I think, to be honest, you've been here 3.5 years. I've been here 40. And I think probably when you're here as long as I have been, you just accept all the funny things that happen, and the things that don't work. Just accept it.
But
otherwise,
we're talking about one funny thing here. We're not talking about all the funny things.
Yeah,
because
but I'm
there are
about
many funny things that I fully accept, that I find charming. And you're right. So we're talking about one funny.
Yeah, but it's not. It's happened now. You can't change it.
Right. But that doesn't mean I have to be happy about it.
That's true. No, we need to move on. We need to move on. We've got 3 stories to look at, but I haven't had my say on this yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I understand what's chapping your hide, I think was the expression you used, Andy. And knowing you to some extent as I do, I can see how this has, to use another expression, stuck in your craw. And I think it seems to be about the injustice of being told one thing and then something else is true, which could have been easily put right if the grandfathering part was there. You came here on this understanding, you changed your life on that understanding, let's follow through with that understanding. And that grandfathering part could have been honored. And I think, there's a Portuguese lawyer I know who deals with a lot of citizenship inquiries. He's mad about that, about how people were effectively missold that thing. And I take on board as well, it's like, it's a coaching in Portuguese life, as Natasha's pointing out, I think, this rug pulling thing. She's had 40 years experience of it, and he's only had 3.5.
Yeah, but what about Carl or Andy? Imagine that you were thinking about coming to live in Portugal, and somebody said to you, or you said to somebody, but is it everything that is in place, that the way I think it is it likely to stay that way? And what would you have done if they said, do you know what, we can't tell you that, we don't know, things could change, laws change all the time? Would you have chosen another country? No. So don't complain. That's my feeling.
Well, okay, so
we brought him here to complain, though, Natasha, to be fair. This is
what I mean, you say you've been here, 40 years?
Yeah.
Complaining is a national sport here.
Sorry?
Complaining is a national sport in Portugal.
Yeah, but it's not something that worries me. I mean, it's just the way they are. Don't worry about it. I mean, I've never worried about it.
I'm here talking about one thing only.
Yes. And
so here we
are.
I'm
not particularly worried about it either, because I'm going to go on. I'm going to get the permanent residence card, and I'm going to get to the end of 10 years. I already have my language certificate. We're studying the culture. We volunteer. We donate money. I donate video services to nonprofits, and I cover the culture. We are fully participant up to the point where we can't vote because we're not yet citizens. Nothing about that's going to change. My high chapness involves exactly how Carl so eloquently put it. The idea that you're on a particular track, and that's what it was. Now, the Portuguese want to change. As I said, more power to them. They have every right and duty to control who comes into their country. I just wanted them to do what they have done so well heretofore, which is grandfather things.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that, Andy. For people in this situation, I agree with Andy. Says Barak, I won't be here for 40 years. Looking at it from another point of view, if we're told, I'm guessing you mean in terms of mortality rather than moving elsewhere, but you might not, Barak. Forgive me. If we are told, he actually says 5 years. He meant to say 5 years. If we are told 5 years, and to now be told 10, that is completely wrong. Solar Life Portugal, so here 657. As long as you follow the law, Does that mean you can stay as long as you follow the law? What we find funny is people that campaign for political parties that directly damage their chance. I'm guessing you're talking about Shaga supporters who are damaging their own prospects of staying here. And we don't have time to investigate the nuance of that statement there, Peter. We're going to move on. Thank you, Andy, for that. I suspect you're not the only one in that condition, and you put it well. And I liked your preface about of course this country must do what it has to do. It's up to Portugal, but I think it's the grandfathering point that means most to you in this discussion. Natasha, a complaining culture, as has been pointed out, and actually, maybe I can preface this by saying foreigners coming over and doing terrible things. This is your link today. You're talking about it would appear French parents who brought their children here and dumped them in a forest in a kind of Hansel and Gretel scenario. This is horrific, isn't it?
It's absolutely terrible.
What's the current status on this? I think I've got a couple of links for this.
The current status appears to be that, they know the car that the stepfather and the mother are driving. They're looking for it. They've been in touch with the father. The father had reported his children disappeared.
Yes.
And he says that the wife had taken them. We've got no idea. We've had no filling in as to why these people would have driven all this way in order to leave the children in a forest blindfolded.
Yes.
It's so chilling. It's so awful. And the thing is you think about these things because obviously we're always writing at high speed here. And so sometimes you don't really think about what you've written until later on. And I was thinking this won't have come out of nothing. These children presumably have been, they've had an abusive past because you don't just wake up one day from having read Winnie the Pooh the day before to blindfolding your children and leaving them in a forest.
Yeah, bless them. Absolutely. We know now, do we not, that their names are Barthélemy and Zachary, who arrived via Miranda de Corvo on May the 11th of this year, as authorities pieced together the days leading up to the brothers' abandonment by mother and stepfather. So they're still on the loose at large, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at an article also in Le Parisien as well today, because obviously they've got a different take on it. They're not saying at the moment that the children were abandoned. They're even keeping those options open. But they have said that that obviously the children are now in the care of Portuguese authorities. Now, the thing about Portuguese authorities, they're so good when it comes to things like this. If you remember, it was only a few weeks ago, we had another mad Frenchman arrive and kill his wife and ex-wife in Bragança and bury them, and then take the children on a sort of bizarre road trip with 17 license plates and a shotgun. And Portugal has got this guy in jail. They're not letting him go to France to be extradited to France. The children have been protected. I think they are obviously with their grandparents now, I hope. I mean, Portugal is going to look after these little children because it doesn't look very positive in the way that French authorities have been looking after them. Yeah.
Yes. As you know, their oversight and how they got to be here ultimately in any case.
Exactly. And it just doesn't make sense. This doesn't come out of a vacuum. There's some backstory here, and these little things were left vulnerable, I think.
And there is a part we can play in this, given that they are at large. It's a French couple, probably not using their names Mark and Marine at this stage.
Well, what I know from just hearing something on the telly is that the mother is very slim and very tall, and the stepfather is short, with glasses and a beard.
So they're quite a distinctive couple on that basis.
Well, I mean, a tall woman, a thin tall woman, and a much smaller man with glasses and a beard.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, it sounds like a French news program or a philosophy program. That combination. So that's what we're looking for here. Perhaps you can help with that if you see a suspicious pair of that description it would appear, we have to say, don't we? Because the police are understandably not ruling anything out at the moment because it's such a bizarre case and it's easy to jump to conclusions. But this is quite extraordinary that they were found alone. They said they were blindfolded and left playing a game in this Hansel and Gretel bizarre fairy tale. Grim. It's a grim tale, isn't it? On any
it's a
level.
horrible story, and they were left with little rucksacks with a change of clothes and 2 pieces of fruit each and a bottle of water, as if the poor darlings would have actually the wherewithal to say, "Oh, look, here's a new pair of knickers. I must put them on. I've been 3 days in the forest now." Yeah, it's just chilling.
Right, and sorry, go on, Andy.
Oh, I was just saying, it seems to me that those children are extraordinarily lucky to have been abandoned in Portugal.
Maybe.
Yeah, because one of the things you learn very quickly is if you're standing on a street corner looking lost, a Portuguese person is going to come up and help you.
Yeah.
And that they were found and are getting the help they need. That nothing terrible happened to them, I think, is indicative of the type of place this is.
Well said.
It's awful, of course, what was done to them, but thank goodness they weren't left in a,
I know.
Well, this was in your earlier reporting, wasn't it, Natasha? It was a couple who spotted them near Alcacer del Sol, where people that was put on the map by the flooding earlier this year.
He was such a lovely man because he was interviewed on Corregman, I think it was, but he was crying. He was in tears when he was talking about it.
Yeah.
He said, "I just can't believe this sort of thing could happen to 2 little children of that,
Yeah, and he did the Portuguese thing. He took them home to the family home,
and he fed them.
Yes, that's an utterly Portuguese response to the most basic welfare like that. Probably grandma made some food. They called the police came, and then it became apparent what had happened to these poor children. We had communes locally where kids were regularly left in the road, claims Solar Life Portugal here. You have to feel really sorry for the kids. And we're going back to citizenship here as well. Very true, Andy, from Solar Life. Unfortunately, these sorts of stories get lost in the mire in England and the US. Oh, maybe because it's so unusual here that it has such a high news profile, perhaps. And I can connect this back to your original. We're looking at nationality with you, Andy, and something you said, Natasha, about the country does have to do something about the amount of people coming into the country, which I think we would all broadly agree with, and certainly from a sort of qualitative point of view, you want to make sure immigration is working for the country as well as any individuals that are coming in. But that. It's, on the one hand, you've got Andy who went through his checklist of what he's doing to make himself a good citizen here. And then it seems that this act is not dealing with the main problem of high volumes of unqualified in the sense of not scrutinized numbers of people coming into the country. Again, from that point of view, it seems a little unfair that somebody so conscientious in their wish to be a citizen is falling foul of the situation, the law, literally. And then, compare and contrast. I know we have roads coming in from Spain and France, and people will, via Spain coming into Portugal, and you can't deal with everything there. But it is quite a bizarre contrast in human behavior there that we're seeing on the one hand here in Portugal with Andy and these people. And the other story you mentioned of that awful man who brought his partner and ex-partner here as well. Also,
and then strangled them both.
Yeah. So
and made his son watch while he buried them.
Yeah, extraordinary.
Awful.
Have we seen any justice with that, Natasha, on that earlier case? Are you aware?
Well, he's in jail, and they're not extraditing him to France. They're keeping him here, and they're going to prosecute him here.
Where I understand, I found out this morning that we have 3 times the average of prison stays in Portugal. Sounds like it's a grim. That's the message that needs to be sent out around the world to would-be.
Yeah, our prisons are no joke.
They're grim, aren't they? 3 times longer sentences, and I think half the amount of money invested in the daily rate, as it were.
They are terrible prisons, really.
Yeah. Well, it's not a holiday camp after all.
No.
Right. I would like to say, and finally, I've got a lovely palate cleanser, a story of a cat being reunited with a grandma. But no, I've got this week more than 500 flights at risk due to a general strike. We don't need, Andy, Natasha, we don't need this right now, do we? When we've got the problems at the airport, we've got these perception problems in terms of coming and moving to Portugal. We've got these worries about flights being delayed because of the EES system, and now 500 more flights at risk due to a general strike. What are we thinking of the country, Natasha?
The only thing I think is good about this is that they tell you weeks in advance the dates that everything is going to go wrong. Yes. So you can say, when you book your flight, if you've got a flight booked for June the 3rd, you just quickly change the date.
Okay, yes.
I would have thought.
Yes.
I mean, nobody's going to say, oh, well, I'm booked to fly on the June 3rd, so I'm going to do it anyway. No one would do that after all the bad publicity about Portugal this far when it comes to actually arriving in the country.
Yes. Yeah. And in your 40-year experience as well, Natasha, what sort of action is taken or results are achieved by these general strikes?
Nothing. I mean, there's always, you see, the trouble is most of these strikes are about things that are sort of deeply entrenched, bad conditions, bad pay, all the other stuff that it never changes. And because we keep changing governments a bit like underwear, no government has been able to get to grips with anything, systemic, because they're not in for long enough.
Right.
So the problems have basically just gone on and on and on. The basic joining the European Union didn't really help from the point of view of conditions and pay and everything else. It helped in the way of roads and stuff like that. But things haven't, from my point of view, I see people are not so happy as they used to be.
Yes. Yeah, that's interesting.
Because in the old days, everyone was poor and everyone was happy.
Wow, that sounds like
they were happy. I mean,
your granddad would say, isn't it?
I arrived here when the whole family were on a motorbike, and the only person with a helmet was the dad.
Yeah.
The mum would be behind and the kids would be on the petrol tank, and everybody would be balancing like this, and there'd be shopping bags. But if you talk to them, they were always happy. Now everyone is really not happy.
That's a very interesting perspective. From your 3.5 years experience, Andy, what do you make of this? I mean, in terms of PR, it's not good, is it?
I mean, I tend to look at things like this from the perspective of a labor liberal. So when I see general strike or strike of any kind, I agree with Natasha that the fact that we get warning is super nice.
Yes.
There are real issues with labor here, and I do tend to side in that direction.
Okay.
So I'll do exactly what Natasha said. Is I'm not going anywhere on the 3rd of June. So
exactly, yeah. Don't even try and catch a bus.
Well, that was Natasha's advice anyway.
But I hope it works somehow.
Don't get me wrong. If people felt happy in their work, things would be very different, would they not? Rather than a bitter and long-term resentment that we seem to see among teachers, healthcare workers, and the police, across the public sector. That does seem to be, it does resonate with the earlier national sport of complaining. We would be a very different country, and I say we, should these things be addressed in some systemic way that you were alluding to, Natasha. Not only do you know when the strikes are happening, the police will also publish where their road checks are and the speed cameras as well. It's very civilized. It's excellent. Finally here then, Barack says, Natasha, you have an answer for everything, don't you? Well, he's
obviously very pissed off.
Yeah, that's the idea, though.
That's why we're on this thing.
But the thing is that's in a way the only way to get through living in Portugal. You've got to just deal with it. You've just got to be open to bang, 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 and keeping going. But the minute you stop and say, where are my human rights? All of this doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work.
The general strikers might be finding, as well as the new estrangeiros novos here as well. What we need, Andy, I think, is a place on Natasha's new workshop, how to cope easily with things, with Portuguese rocks in the road. Natasha, you need to write a book on this, I think.
What? Me?
your approach to, like, taking it in your stride here in Portugal.
Well, otherwise, how would I still be here?
Quite.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You wouldn't have said, "Oh, I've had enough of this. I want to go to a country where everything's organized and written down and nothing ever changes." And I'd have no idea where that country is.
Well, there isn't.
Yes.
One of the things that I tell, when I talk to Americans who are thinking about coming here, one of the things I say is that, the Portuguese bureaucracy will drive you stark raving mad. But remember, all bureaucracies suck. They just suck in very particular ways.
Yes.
And so you have to get used to a new way of bureaucracy sucking.
You have to get used to bacalhau flavor, I think, is possibly one way of putting it. And Barak adding, along with extended time, do we now need to take the citizenship test where prior we just needed the certificate of completion of A2? I imagine that's being talked about somewhere. And for your benefit, Barak, I did devise a Portuguese citizenship test to get everybody warmed up for that. Should it ever happen. Andy, thank you so much for being here. A last word to you, and I'll love to Aveiro, of course. How would you like to leave us today?
Stimulating conversation, Natasha. Nice to meet you. Good to see you, Carl. And I'm glad to be here. And if I'm going to wait 10 years, I'm going to wait 10 years. It'll work out just great.
Well, that's the way to think about it.
I don't have to be happy about it.
You don't have to be
I think that's, you're halfway there.
I'm happier about being here than I am unhappy about the waiting next week.
Nice
exactly.
One, thank you.
That's the way to see it.
Natasha, and to you, your last word today on the news review. And we must should we see if Barak will come and talk to us?
He's saying it again. Oh, he's obviously furious.
Last word to you, Natasha.
Yeah, but what about? What am I meant to be saying?
Life in Portugal, or a concluding thought.
Life in Portugal. I just would never live anywhere else, And my kids grew up here, and I'm so glad. They all were on the beach every single day of every single summer until about 8:30 at night. From 5 o'clock after school, after work, we all hit the beach. I have never had a better life in my life, and I would never go anywhere else. And if I'm going to be thwarted, for instance, I did need whatever they call it. They call it a hip replacement. I did need a hip replacement. And I did. I said I knew at the time, the man that was running Faro Hospital. And I said, God, I need a hip replacement. What am I going to do? He said, don't worry. I'll get you in a consultation. That should take 3 years off your wait. So I got the consultation on my crutches, you see. And I said, well, so how long is it going to take? And the man said, we'll be in touch. Anyway, after a little while, my husband said, come on, enough of this. You've been hobbling around on these crutches. We're going to do this privately. So we did.
In the garage. We're going to do it at home.
My husband's been dead for 6 years. And would you believe it? Only a couple of days ago, I got a telephone call from Faro Hospital. And they said, we think you're waiting for a hip replacement. I said, are you honestly serious? Do you think I'd have waited 8 years? I've been dead by now.
I could have been a
go and give the hip to someone else. I've had mine done. Thanks very much. If that's the thing, this country is wonderful, but there are things in it that don't work.
Natasha, they didn't forget about you. How wonderful.
They did. But no, they didn't forget about me. I was in a blinking list of people who were all on crutches.
Wow. Okay. Amazing. Thank you both. Have a great week, everybody. And we will put that was the other thing, Andy. A little bit pleased about sorry about this prolonged end to the podcast today, but your salt documentary. How can people find out more about that?
Well, you can watch the trailer on my YouTube channel. So you go to YouTube/ and then at A Cline, ACLINE. That takes you to my YouTube channel, and the official trailer plays there. And that will kind of tell you what you need to know. I'm entering some festivals in Portugal, and a couple in Europe and a couple in the United States. So hopefully they'll get some screening time. And then once that runs its course, I'll put it up on YouTube for everybody to see.
Good luck with that.
It was fun to do. I'm still working on my Green Giants documentary about the young man who's cataloging all the ancient trees in Portugal.
Oh, how wonderful. That sounds
it's
really
cool.
good.
Yeah, it's a very cool thing. The organization is called Verde. And yeah, there you go. So you see the right there in the yes, exactly that. So that's the official trailer.
How lovely. How lovely.
I did it in black and white because I like black and white. Also, this was I like black and white for this particular project because the visuals to me are kind of stark in an interesting way. You get this flat salt pan, but then you have these upright bodies who are they're working it, and so it kind of helped me visually isolate the people who are working with the environment they're working in. And, this family is 4 generations. The first generation is no longer here, but the portly man you see in the back is one generation. This guy here that you see is another generation. And then these 2 guys right here are the 3rd generation.
Right, and it's wonderful.
Isn't it? Isn't that amazing? I'll send you the trailer, Natasha.
Yeah, if the things keep going the way they're going, this may be the last salt pan in Aveiro.
Really?
Wow.
There are 6 at the moment. This one is part of the Eco Museum. This family is committed to keeping this up, but the numbers are dropping. So it's a threatened practice.
Incredible! What a great cultural
fantastic photography.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? You make a beautiful film, and a visual feast there, and especially good for anybody who likes looking at semi-naked men carrying salt around.
Right.
Thank you very much, Andy, for being here. Thank you, Natasha, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you too.
If you'd like to join us, Barack or anybody else, let me know, and you 2 can be on the screen like Andy has been today.